Welcome to Belief, Being, and Beyond with your host, Granddaughter Crow. So, hi everybody, Granddaughter Crow here with another episode of Belief, Being, and Beyond. And this Beyond, we're going to be talking about chakras and shadow work, which is something that comes up. Shadow work is like a huge topic these days. So, today I have Stephanie Michelle here with me. So, Stephanie has been an intuitive healer her whole life, studying metaphysics and energy with her mom since the 80s, right? So that's a long time, people. She enjoyed a career, yes, she enjoyed a career in education and obtained degrees in communication, sociology, and leadership. Now, for those who know me, I love leadership because I think that there are just as many leaders as there are leadership styles. I too have a degree in leadership, so love that. She also became a Reiki master and interfaith minister in 1996. So she's recently
Yep.
become, yeah, so she's just recently become a yoga teacher and retired from the traditional education to become full-time healer and coach, which is what I believe you were called to. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us here on Belief, Being, and Beyond. Say hi to everybody. Tell us just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll delve into your book that was just released by Llewellyn Worldwide.
And hello, everybody listening. You said a lot. That's kind of me in a nutshell. I studied metaphysics with my mom since I was 3 years old, literally, when she realized my brain functioned a little different than normal people.
Yeah.
It was not easy being that type of individual growing up in the 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
but I have finally learned to embrace it, and it's a joy now, and I love it. And I love being able to offer understanding to this world.
Yeah, big time, big time. Before even just highlighting your book and getting into that, just looking at your perspective on life.
Yeah.
Reading an article that was dropped at Llewellyn.com. You wrote a wonderful article about that. I started recognizing how much you and I align in the concepts of all is energy. It's not necessarily good or bad, but it has to do with blocked or unblocked. And
Yeah.
another concept that you have, which I really want to highlight a lot in this show, which is very important. There is a difference between book knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
tacit knowledge. So, just really quick for the listeners, you can study 100 books, a library full of how to ride a bicycle. But until you get on that bicycle and have that experience, you don't know how to ride a bicycle. And Stephanie knows how to ride this bicycle. I love that about you. So
Yeah.
it's like you're not just gonna give us a book with a bunch of, oh, by the way, and ergo this and whatnot that. You're actually like, this is how it looks like in practice
Mm-hmm.
because I did the work. And I love that.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. When I'm working with my clients, when I'm doing the coaching, I will always speak from my experience, and a lot of times people will ask metaphysical questions, things that they've read on the internet or seen on social media or even read in a book. And it's great, in my opinion, is a great starting tool. All of that is great starting tools. But like you said, you can't integrate it, you can't understand it, and you can't learn it until you do it and you go through it. And so when we talk about those foundational, here's the information written from someone else's experience, take that information from their experience, but don't block the information from that experience. Block the information on how you experience it. I don't believe in one size fits all. Even when it comes to meditation techniques, I don't believe in one size fits all. I don't believe you have to listen to this music or have this stone or have this tool and technique. We all have different frequencies and different vibrations. So you take in all of that information and you try it on and you see what aligns with you and you see what works for you. And that's a huge part of shadow work is you have to see who you are amongst the masses, amongst the information, amongst the noise, and being human on this world.
Yes. And that's another thing that we align with is my mission is to inspire, to encourage, and to empower people to be their authenticity. And I see that you do the same thing. You say a lot of the same things that I was even reading in your article about the world is telling you who they want you to be. That has nothing to do with who you are. Tell them who you are. And I'm just like, preach.
Yeah, absolutely. I say the best and the worst part about having this career and being who I am is because my whole mission is to empower you. But then you don't need me anymore. I want to move you on. I want you to graduate. I want you to be better than what the information is that I'm giving you. This is a starting point.
Yes.
And for some reason, we've embedded into our culture globally that we need identifications. We need to connect with labels and boxes instead of just connecting.
Yep.
And so that's a point of suffering in my experience because any label, any identification comes with limitations. And it's like, I believe that, but only 90% of it. There's a 10%. And then somebody might say, well, then you don't really believe, or whatever their, structure is for that.
Yep.
And that to me isn't really who we are. It's not our purpose. It is for connection, but connection without limitations.
Love that. I love that. It's kind of interesting because for me, what I'm hearing is like these labels and boxes that, I'll just say the Western society encourages us or forces us to go into is like a measuring stick that we can never measure up against. We
Right.
always fall short, or it dissuades us from who we actually are, forcing us to be in that label, in that box. But really, what do you think about this statement? Your measuring stick should come from you measuring yourself against yourself from 5 minutes ago and from 5 minutes from now. What do you think?
I love that. Absolutely. I was just talking with a client this morning who is in transition, and so he owns his own company, and he's firing and hiring and firing and hiring, and he's like, at this moment, it feels like it's a never-ending battle. And I said, well, in this moment, you're not in one place. You're constantly evolving. So before you can find the foundation for your company, you need to find the foundation for yourself, create a new root chakra. So, yes, he's doing exactly what you just said. He's measuring up against himself and not necessarily the society of business or the society of what this industry should look like. He's internalizing it and making it what he wants it to be. And you can apply that to any journey that you're on.
Yeah, I love that. So just as Stephanie mentioned, I want to give a call out to her website, www.primalhearthealing.com. Also, you can follow Stephanie on social media again, Primal Heart Healing. And there's some just wonderful information. But I also wanted to highlight that you're talking about working with clients. So this is
Yeah.
an opportunity, people, to go to www.primalhearthealing.com and peruse what Stephanie offers. I see, you've got like life and spiritual coaching. You've got like psychic. What do you tell us a little bit about what you can offer to the
So
people? If they,
I do have a bunch of different offerings on there, but as you mentioned, I've been a Reiki master since '96. So a lot of it is energy work, but intuitive energy work. So I can do medical intuitive. I can connect to deeper parts of you that you can't see necessarily, that you've blocked out of your consciousness. So I do psychic readings. I use oracle cards. I don't use tarot cards, again, because too much information. I just want the kind of sentence starters, and then I'm really channeling. So I'm not actually using cards. I tell people it's like my blankie. I just need a little diving board, and then I'm off, and running. Um, I can do Reiki long distance, but a lot of times I will have people in my home office. I will be traveling across the country. So, depending on where I am, I can go visit people and do Reiki healings in person. I also do ceremony stuff because I am an interfaith minister. Yeah, which that's a lot of fun. Mostly I've done weddings, and I love doing weddings. It's just so beautiful. And being a writer, you get to like infuse it with love. So, yeah, there's a couple of different things that I offer. My biggest draw is the coaching and getting into the shadow work and using that to then manifest your reality,
Yeah, I absolutely love that, which is a perfect cue into Chakras and Shadow Work by Stephanie Michelle, published by Llewellyn Worldwide. It was released here in May 2024. So it
Yeah.
is available, people, wherever you get books. You can find this. You can talk to Barnes and Noble if you want, and they'll order it for you. So this is a beautiful book. And as I was going through it, I started feeling more and more empowered. It's just like you said, this is not just spewing information about the chakras. You do give a lot of information about the chakras, but it actually is more of like a guide to provide you with, maybe you're into gemstones, maybe you're into teas, maybe doing some yoga positions or a ritual. So there's so many different approaches that you can do to sit with each of your chakras, and
Okay.
even like meditations, poignant questions, and spending time within each of those chakras. So each, like, different chapters have a different chakra, so you can jump in how is a person supposed to read your book, just from start to finish, or how would you recommend the different ways of encountering this?
It's choose your own adventure. Um, so when it depends on where you're at in your process, and you could be doing shadow work for 10, 15, 20 years, and this book is still going to give you more because there's so much to enhance. Even if you've already done the specific thing that I've mentioned, it's almost like one of those things like, oh yeah, let's go back and do that. Well, now with that said, if you're brand new and you have no idea even what shadow work is, yeah, start from the beginning, read it through once, then go, okay, I think I need work with my sacral. I think I need work with my heart. Or if you're somewhere in the middle, an intermediate, what I really think is powerful is asking your body. Your body will never lie to you. Your body holds all your memories. It's your ego and your consciousness that tries to screw with you. But if you ask your body, you're going to feel something, whether it's your heart, your throat, your third eye, the buzzing up here, the anxiety here, the stomach, you're going to feel something. Where is it in your foot? Where is it in your hand? And then move to that chapter and say, okay, where I'm dealing with blocked energy or imbalance is in this part of my body. Let me start at that chapter. And nothing is a straight line. It's all, loops and more loops and 11 dimensions of looping. So
Yes.
even when you find the place to start, in my recommendation, you start with that, let's say the throat chakra. Try to focus on it for at least 30 days. However, while you're focusing on it, you're going to notice your heart chakras being affected, your sacrals being affected, your solar plexus is being affected. So you can't disconnect those energy systems. but you can start somewhere. And then maybe, your throat is feeling better. You no longer have that cough that you've had for 30 years. But now all of a sudden you feel something in your stomach. Go down to the sacral. What I have learned through my experience is the layers. They're just, oh, oh my God.
It's
I said
onion.
Right, right. And I said on one of my very first book talks in May, I was like, I thought when I got my book and I met my husband, like I made it. I made it to the finish line. I am sitting in joy and enlightenment. And then it was like a whole new wave hit me, and I was like, oh God, here we go again.
Yeah.
But so the cycle starts again, but it starts at a different level of awareness and understanding and the ability to go through it again. So it's not as heavy as it may be the first time, or even the second time, or even the third time. It does get lighter and lighter each time. And to be honest with you, you can and will get to a point where you're crying and laughing at the same time.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And also going through the process, maybe the first time is unfamiliar, but maybe the second time you're like, oh yeah, this part of the process. Oh yeah, that part of the process. So
Absolutely.
you also talk about like each of the chakra systems. Pick up your book, Chakras and Shadow Work, by Stephanie Michelle, but you talk about the chakras as potentially even being clogged and how to unclog them, and that there's different, almost like I got this feeling like there's different shadow forms in each of the chakras versus like the root versus the throat versus the solar plexus. Can you kind of talk a little bit about the clogging and what causes that, as well as how what is that shadow voice going to sound like in your root versus your heart or your throat or your etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So, God, that's a huge question.
I
I can
know.
dive in on so many different places.
Do it.
But essentially, when we have experiences, they hit our energy um, frequencies. They hit our energy forum, but that's not the right word. But they hit our energy field, and each of our chakras has, it's like a note, right? A musical note. So they have different keys. So depending on what key that experience is in, the A flat, I don't even know if that's a key, but whatever key that experience is in, essentially that chakra is going to absorb it. Now, again, it can form a pleasant experience or it can form a not pleasant experience. When it forms a not so pleasant experience, we tend to clench up that energy system. We want to protect it. Another way to think of it as trauma. And when trauma hits the body or hits the energy field, it creates almost like a muscle spasm or an energy block or dirt or, debris.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times in our life, 40 years, 40 plus years, we just keep on trucking. Right. We're just going to keep on trucking. Ouch. Okay. Keep going. Think my toe is broken. Going to keep on going. Whatever it is.
Right,
We're
right.
we're conditioned to just keep on going. Now, eventually, it's like the princess and the pea. It doesn't matter how many mattresses you pile up on that pea, you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
And one day it's going to make you sick and you're going to stop sleeping. And your experiences are then going to be uh, based on the fact that you can't sleep because there's a pea under 20 mattresses. And now you got to go find that pea. So, chakra work is going to find that pea that was placed into your energy system. Did I say chakra work? You know what I meant.
Yeah,
Shadow work.
yeah, chakra shadow
Um,
work. Absolutely. Yeah.
exactly. So you're going to find that. Um, so each chakra, like I said, has a different frequency and it's aligned to different emotions. So when you're in the root, and there's different ways you can think of it too. So as we're forming 0 to 20, and again, it's not, it is a science, but it's not a linear. It's not 0 to 20. It could be 0 to 26. It could be 0 to 16, depending on you. But in those form years, you have some that affect the root chakra, creating foundations. You have then, the root's also going to be the safety, right? So then you go up to the sacral, which is when the creative mind starts to come online in development, right? The creative mind comes in. So you're seeing the world a little bit more creative, more in those teenage years. What's happening, the hormones, the sexuality, all that stuff in the sacral. So those experiences are going to be implanted there. Then you're at the stage of let's experience the world from the first time. You're now in the courage and the strength. So that's your solar plexus. And if you think of life and, the game of life and that structure, then you're going to get married. You're going to find love. That's the heart chakra. Then you're going to become, the authority in your life. That's the throat chakra. Then you become the wisdom. But you can do all of these first time experiences 0 to whatever, 20, 21. It doesn't have to be spread out so long, but it's probably going to be a little bit of both. And then you get to a point where you're like, okay, I've accumulated. I've done nothing but accumulate. And I don't remember who I am or who I was at 0, because that was the authentic me. So now we have to kind of weed through those accumulations and get back down to our highest vibration, which is interesting. It's like, Benjamin Button, we got to get back down to our highest vibration.
I love that.
Yeah. So there was a point in my healing journey, in one of my many healing journeys, where I went to an Ayurvedic practitioner and I was telling her about everything that was going on in my body. And I very clearly remember saying to her an emotion, and that emotion was, I feel sometimes ashamed of my joy and happiness, because my joy and happiness I perceive as immature. And she said Buddha was the same way. And it was like, oh my God. Okay, I get it. That's where we're supposed to be going. We're supposed to, that was another voice, another experience. That joy and laughter was childish instead of childlike, instead of experiencing it from purity. And in that moment, it just clicked. And I'll be immature till the day I die, and I'm going to keep on getting more and more immature.
I love it. I love it because I love the way that you explained. I've never really heard it laid out with the developmental stages of the human experience and the root to the crown. That was brilliant. I just wanted to say brilliant there. And I also love the fact that you're like, even though this is linear, we're supposed to go backwards, people. I have this theory that there comes a time in our life, and I'll just use the female because I am female, pronouns she, her. And I'm like, there's a time in my elder years that I get to choose. I'm at the crossroads and I get to choose whether I'm going to become a bitter old woman. And by God, if you look at the experiences that I've had in my life, you'd be like, yeah, well, that's cool. I understand it. She's bitter. I get it. Or I'm at the crossroads and I decide to become a wise little girl, which is what I aim for, is to be a wise little girl. And I love that playfulness. And for those of you who are picking this up on YouTube, there's a lot, both of us are so animated, so playful. So if you're hearing this on another, just where you get your podcast, hop over to Granddaughter Crow on YouTube and just check out how much energy and playfulness we're having. So I love that you took us on a linear, you told us about the circles, and then you took us on a linear, and then you backed us up, and it's just like, Oh, this is brilliant because I see pictures in my mind of, oh, they're telling you to grow old and crickety. And you're like, no, and to be ashamed of being happy and playful, when actually your authenticity is saying, no, I want to enjoy an ice cream cone again, you know?
Yes, yes, exactly. We get to a point where we've experienced the experiences. Now take all of those experiences and experience the joy with the wisdom. I saw on social media not too long ago, somebody I went to high school with posted a meme that said, um, if you're posting life advice after 40, it's too late. And I thought to myself, oh God, that's so sad for her. That is so sad for her. Like after 40, if you're what? Like, did you just give up? Should we just all start, giving up? And but that's she has no idea that she just played into what they want us to play into. Give
Yes.
up. If you're not part of the working force anymore, it's just time for you to give up. Don't empower yourself. Don't show up. Go
Right.
be quiet and stay in your house.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh God, that's so sad. It's so
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah. Well, it's also a generational thing. Like, I think both of us are kind of Gen X, and in that lived experience in the United States, we really were pressured by a societal norm of children shall be seen and not heard. Females, you need to provide for everybody else and put yourself last. Um, there was no such thing as the term self-love, self-care. We were told give, give, give until there is no more to give, and then find more to give because that's what you do as a female. And then I was listening to your talk on the Llewellyn Con 2024. You guys can check out on YouTube, Llewellyn Books at Llewellyn Books, and watch Stephanie's there. And there's a lot of other authors, brilliant conversations. Thank you. Shout out to Llewellyn. But you said that there was a moment that you were like giving Reiki to your loved ones and giving Reiki to the ones that, and you just felt so drained, but that was what you're supposed to do, is kind of how I understood it. And then a brilliant moment came in, and
Yeah.
you said, what if I were to give Reiki to myself, good energy to myself? Could you share just a little bit more about what happened in that dynamic where you started loving yourself in that way?
Yeah. So it was, yes, caretaking, right? And all the experiences and circumstances that are within that caretaking domain. And it wasn't a moment of, well, let me put myself in the caretaking domain as well. It was, no, let me just focus on myself. So it was a little bit deeper than just let me include myself in the Reiki, in the self love. It was, no, everything is coming back to me right now. In this moment, everything is coming back to me. I have to focus on me. I have to fill my cup first. I have to love myself fully, 100%, 120% before I can show up for anyone else again. And that really did change my life. I don't, in that moment, I was in a situation that was very dark. And I was replaying a cycle that I had been in for 45 years.
Right.
A relationship cycle different face, same cycle, different face, same cycle. And so I just was like, nothing was working. And so I went back to like old faithful, I see I can help people. Let me freaking help myself and just keep bringing it back to me. And that's one of the things I talk about a lot now that I've learned it, experienced it, and been through it. Is everything we do, we have to see the mirror. We have to see that it's coming back to us. All of our projections about what the external really is actually is us. And, of course, there's a lot said about that in psychology books, but experiencing it, seeing it energetically, and keep bringing it back to yourself and putting yourself first, then really allows you, what I say to people is it ups your frequency. It makes you the real authentic you. It brings you out of your shell. It takes away fear. And now all of a sudden, the people that are coming into your life are true vibrational matches, because now they're also seeing the real light instead of the thing that the avatar you've been playing.
That's awesome. So basically, um, give yourself permission to love yourself, and not only permission, but make it almost not necessarily responsibility, even though it is a responsibility. Make it a higher priority. Hashtag wisdom from women over 40. Mic
Yeah.
drop.
Exactly. And that alone, what I have found is that alone will teach other people to deeply love themselves. So that spreads, just like misery spreads, so does self-love. So does self-empowerment.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. So, as we are, I just gave you a little taste of a lot of goodness, people. Stephanie, Michelle, and Chakras and Shadow Work. Pick up the book. It is available wherever you get your favorite metaphysical books by Llewellyn Worldwide. So, and also, once again, we've got www.primalhearthealing.com. Go check out the website. Obviously, she practices what she preaches, and she practices it before she preaches, and she is not going to put you in a box with a label. So if you're looking for a good spiritual life coach, this might be a good fit. Feel it in your body, and if so, go check it out and send her a message. But Stephanie, is there any final thing that you kind of wanted to share with the listeners, to kind of wrap up everything? I mean, we just went through the whole universe and came back.
I love that. We did just go through the whole universe and come back. The only thing that keeps coming into my head is, and I'm not actually sure how to put this into words, it's more of a vision and a feeling that I keep getting. And it is that that highest vibration is attainable in body.
Ooh. Next book.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
that's huge, because a lot of times, I mean, yeah, you just blew my mind, because now I'm sitting here going, oh, I could look at this from so many different ways. But what I'll just say is that a lot of times under spiritual communities, really good spiritual communities, there is this imagery or this practice that in order to be a high vibration, you got to get out of your body. And we're like, oh, no, maybe this is where it can happen. So,
Hmm.
thank you for that. I'm looking forward to like an article or something about that, because that touched it gave me chills when you said that. So, Stephanie, thank you, thank you, thank you. Chakras and Shadow Work by Llewellyn Worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. And thank you, listeners, for once again watching or listening to wherever you get your podcast to another episode of Belief, Being, and Beyond with your host, Granddaughter Crow. I hope you enjoy. Like, subscribe, and share with people who you feel may benefit or appreciate this information. And otherwise, we will see you on the flippity flip.